Now I'm here to tackle the misinformation spread by Hillman and his cult following. Now, I've had his cult following attack this channel before, nothing new. I've had them attack my viewers and my charity works, and I'm sure this video is going to cause a few tampons to explode. Now, thankfully I've had some of his audience come here instead, thankfully. So the truth seekers out there, welcome. Now, personally I find Dr.hillmam unsettling and a little bit creepy. Many others do, but I'm not here to talk about his character, I'm here to talk about his work. So that's out the side. Now, anyone can read a holy text and have their own understanding of the said text. Anyone can translate it with the use of a translator or a basic understanding of Greek or knowledge of the Greek language, or even with an encyclopedia or dictionary alongside the use of a translator. Knowing the history also helps. Now, a professional scholar, if they're unsure of a word's meaning, they will leave it in Greek, or they will stay alongside its alternative translations, which Hillman does not do. Now I want to give you one such example that can be embarrassing towards Christianity. Hillman has not discussed this, nor would he understand it, and nor would he supply you the alternative meanings, God forbid. Now, people who are spiritual or religious that translate a text will put their said faith or religious beliefs in the text. Hillman does the same, I also do the same, except I supply you with alternative meanings so that way you can choose how to read the text and make up your own mind. Now, this is something that Hillman will not do. Now, Gnosticism is king over any Abrahamic faith or Abrahamic spin-off, such as Satanism. It takes a Gnostic to point out the rationality of the world sometimes. Let's get into this text that can be embarrassing. Matthew 17.7, this is Jesus with the disciples. And Jesus, having come to them, and having touched, or known them, or transformed them through touch, or through spirit. This word apto can also mean intercourse, to have intercourse with them. But usually in this appliance leans towards that with a woman. Not saying that homosexuality or bisexuality did not happen in the ancient past, because it did. So this sentence here can be embarrassing. But it has a deeper meaning, being transformed through spirit, transformed through touch. This here is Gnosticism. Now I will provide you the alternative translations, even if it is embarrassing. Now, let's continue, because these alternative meanings can change the text and its entire meaning. But when a translator is unsure of the said translation, they should leave it in Greek or put all the alternative translations alongside it, like I do. Hillman does not. Now, Ammon also claims that Jesus was a trafficker and that he would use the child's spinal fluid to get high, and that ancient Christians would also sacrifice children to use their spinal fluid to get high like Jesus did. This is complete utter nonsense. This is bullshit. Now, this comes from some New Age American garbage claim that politicians sacrifice children for their blood to drink in order to get high or to gain immortality. This is complete utter nonsense. The only thing close to this would be anti-Roman propaganda of early Christians being baby eaters and cannibals, and that they would cannibalize their God. This is because they did not understand the communion and wanted to justify their persecution. Moving on, ancient Christians were totally against the infanticide of children, meaning killing of children. They would rescue children that were left out in the open or wilderness to die by their Greek and Roman parents. Christians would rescue these children and would even make orphanages to bring homes and families to such children that would be raised Christian. Early Christians would also protest outside of brothels, would also rescue children and women from these brothels. They would be crucified by the Roman authorities as rebels. Simon Magus, a Gnostic Christian baptized by Philip. He rescued his future wife, a slave in a brothel, and married her. Now, early Gnostic Christians were those who preached equality of men, women and children, completely debunks Ammon Hillman's claim. Now we have 1st century and 2nd century accounts, so early Christianity, of Christians saving children. Again, debunks Ammon's claims. Now, these brothels that women were placed into, and even children, were pagan brothels that Christians would run through. These would be the Gnostic Christians and Jewish Christians that were totally against this shit. Ammon will not mention this. Why? Because it completely debunks his theory. Now, these Christians that were saving women and children were trying to be like Jesus themselves, to be Christ-like. Now, again, Ammon will not mention this because it puts Jesus in a favourable spotlight and it debunks his bullshit claim. Now let's go easily debunk Hillman's claims of Jesus being a trafficker. Let's go onto the scene of the temple. So Jesus goes into the temple. So here I'm going to state Jesus was saving children, and it's easy to see why. Let's continue, especially once you've just seen what I mentioned before. And Jesus entered into the temple, this is in Matthew 21.12, and cast out all those who were selling, or who sold. This word polio means to sell. Alright, or who sold or selling, and buying, or purchasing, or ransoming, or acquired. This word here, orgazo, can mean ransoming someone, to have someone purchase a slave, or to acquire a slave in order to free them or to acquire them as property. Alright. In the temple, and overturned the tables of the money changers and seats of those selling or who sold the flock of doves, or doves. Peristera can also be pigeons, but this word is of uncertain origins, most likely coming from Pleiades priestesses, or even from virgin brides and doves of Ishtar, or doves of Aphrodite. Now this can also just be doves. Let's continue though. And he spoke, or reasoned to them, or stated to them, it is written, the house of me will be called a house of prayer. You, however, have made it a den, or a grotto, or hideout, or a cave, spalion, for Laestus. They're using the word lesson, which comes from Laestus, meaning pirates, rebels, bandits, or raiders, or predators, or brigands. He will not state the alternative meanings here. So Jesus is calling them predators of children, or rebels against their own people, or pirates of children, or pirates of their own people, or brigands of their own people. Ammon will only state one translation. So this also implies to the people that were crucified. They could have been rebels, more likely rebels rebelling against Rome, as a lot of Jews did rebel. Ammon will not state this. And the blind, or mentally blind, and the lame came to him in the temple or sanctuary, and he healed, or cured, or served, or took care of, or helped, or treated them. Therapio. That's what this word means. When the chief priests and the scribes saw the wonders that he did, and the children in the temple were cheering, shouting, or crying out for revenge, this word klazo. And they said, save us, this word Hosanna, to the Son of David. The priests were angry. So here, the children are stating to save us. So why would they praise Jesus if Jesus was going to do the same thing as them and abuse them? No, it doesn't make sense. Now, let's continue into the Gospel of Mark. But before I do, into Proto-Gospel of James. We have Mary being raised in the temple as a dove. So Jesus goes to the temple in honor of his mother to stop the trade his mother was a victim of. He loved his mother so much. Why would he take over a temple and run out all those who were doing this nasty stuff and who did it to his mother just to run it? No, he was there for 3 days and left. Let's continue now to Mark. Let's go read Mark 14.46 to 51. This is a whole thing that Ammon does not read, by the way. So they arrested Jesus and held him tight. But one of those standing there drew his sword and struck the high priest's slave or servant, cutting off his ear. Then Jesus spoke up and said to them, did you have to come with swords and clubs to capture me, as if I were a pirate or predator or rebel? Day after day I was with you teaching in the temple, and you did not arrest me, but the scriptures must come true. So here, Jesus is saying that he was in the temple for days. They did not touch him. He called them predators. He called them pirates. So he stated that you have to come out here with swords and clubs to capture me as if I were a predator, or pirate like you, like the Pharisees and Sadducees. Let's continue. Then all the disciples left him and ran away. A certain youth, or teen, dressed only in a linen cloth about his naked body, was following Jesus. They tried to arrest him, but he ran away naked, leaving the cloth behind. So these are soldiers trying to arrest a child that was a victim of abuse, and he's ran away from them. This does not imply Jesus. Now we have the disciples trying to fight for Jesus. That means they were trying to defend him and this boy. Now if we go to the Gospel of John, we have Jesus going up to the soldiers and stating, I am Jesus, arrest me and leave the others alone. So this means that Jesus was protecting children and protecting women and protecting his disciples. Ammon totally ignores this. What does Ammon also ignore, Mr. Hillman? He ignores that the possibility of that youth is actually an angelic being that was there in Jesus' tomb telling Mary Magdalene that Jesus has risen, most likely a later Arian, and it was not written during the lifetime of Jesus. These gospel accounts were written after Jesus' death. The oldest account we have is the Gospel of Thomas. It is just sayings. There is no abuse in there either. The most credible account of Jesus' sayings is from the Gospel of Thomas. Miracles and such, and portraits and paintings of Jesus came much later. Now, let's go to debunk Hillman again. In the Gospel of Matthew 18.6, we have Jesus stating, whoever harms a child, or whoever causes them to stumble, should tie a millstone around their neck and cast himself into the sea. This is Jesus stating, whoever harms a child should drown themselves. This is Jesus stating, the children of God are not for sale. Jesus preached a message of equality for men, women and children. He preached non-violence, a message of love and compassion. This does not match any of Hillman's claims. This hail Satan shit is also stupid, as Satan in the book of Job killed Job's kids and destroyed his property, meaning that the being that Ammon praises or worships is a being that harms children and harms people. This is exactly what Jesus stood up against and what he died standing up against. It doesn't take rocket science to point out the obvious, but it seems here I am. It takes a Gnostic Christian to bring rationality sometimes. So thank you so much for joining us here on this discussion. And if you are on that side of the fence, I hope you're now on this side of the fence, on the correct side, with more logical thinking skills. So thank you so much for being here. Have a lovely day, a lovely night, lots of gnosis and lots of blessings. Peace and love.